What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pin the Gas podcast. My name is Rohan, also known as Cheeta 740. I know I'm not your usual host, but today we're doing something a little different. We're going to switch it up. And where this comes from is Mr. Simko interviewed me about a week or two ago, and I asked him this question. I said, man, has anyone ever interviewed you? And he said, kind of, sort of, not really. So I said, why? Because I was curious about him, and I didn't want to take up all my podcast just talking about him, right? Because he wanted to talk about me. So I said, why don't I do the same thing? Let's switch it around. And he gave me the honor of actually interviewing him. So here we are. Mr. Simko, it's an honor, man.
Listen, the honor is all mine, bro. I appreciate it.
Well, man, I appreciate you letting me do this. But, you interview a lot of racers, a lot of legends. And I'm sure, people, you've shared a little bit of your story along the way, but I'm sure people would like to know, a little bit more about yourself. So that was kind of the purpose of this. And you've got a big following now, man. So I'm sure some people are curious about your story too.
I appreciate it, man. It's an
how you been today?
Honor. Good, bro. Good. I've been looking forward to this ever since you come up with the idea, man. It's been in my mind all the time, right? And been super excited. So yeah, it's every day's a proper mega day, as I always say, right?
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I like I told you, Rohan, I tell everybody, every day, just stop and enjoy the moment every day, right? So I've been practicing that, and it makes me a happier person.
Yeah. You got to stay in the moment to appreciate it, right? So you know what, man? Cheers to this.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, brother. So how about we started off with something that you always ask people? How did you get started off, with the two wheels?
So I grew up in the Navy. My dad was a fighter pilot, right? As people already know. But for those that don't, yeah, I remember being 3 and 4 years old. My dad's motorcycle would be sitting outside, and I was just like at the door, like put down all my toys. I just want to be around the motorcycle. That's it, right? And then once my dad realized that, he'd take me riding, put me on the gas tank, and I'd have my hands holding on the handlebars. We'd go around, and then as I got older, he'd take me riding and continue doing it. And I always wanted a dirt bike. Like, man, I want a dirt bike on a dirt bike. Since we moved all the time, mom was totally against it, of course, right? As a lot of moms are. So my dad's like, of course, happy wife, happy life, right? So he's like, we'll get you one when we get settled and blah, blah, blah. So every base we went to, I ended up becoming friends or sought after the kids with the dirt bikes, right? And made friends with them and grew up riding with them. And that's how I learned how to pull carb off and clean it and, all that good stuff that goes along with it. And then when I turned 16 years old, I got my motorcycle license and my driver's license within a week apart. Bought a brand new 1996 ZX6R. Brand new. My mom was like, of course, she was totally against it too, right? She was like, what are you gonna do when it's cold? I'm like, I'm dressed warm, right? When it rains, I just get wet. I mean, I rain suit, I don't know. I just want to ride, right? I want that freedom. And yeah, so from there I went to MMI. Didn't do no track days while I was still here before I went to MMI out in Phoenix, Arizona. Went there, and while I was there in class, of course, you get with a bunch of people. They're like, dude, we need to go do track days. I was like, let's go. Signed up for CCS at Firebird International Raceway. And yeah, that's it. Of course, my love for two wheels have always been there, but it's different, as people know that's watching this or that's going to listen to this. When you get on the street, we always do those squid activities, right? Freaking 150, whatever it'll do, riding wheelies, all this stuff. But once you get on the track, it changes your life in a different way too, just like it did when you first loved motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
Motorcycles is a special, we're a special group of people, meaning that it touches us in such a strong way that we're willing to do anything and everything to replicate that feeling, right? No matter what it is in life, you know what I mean? And the passion just runs so deep. But yeah, that's how I got into it. Watched road racing, grew up watching road racing. So yeah, it's been a journey, man. And without motorcycles, just imagine our lives without motorcycles, Rohan.
I couldn't even, man. I couldn't even imagine.
Right?
I don't think I'm as passionate about anything except that, So, so you started off. You got your motorcycles you got your permit and your driver's license at the same week, or which one did you get first? Your motorcycles?
So my I got my driver's license because we had a program in school. We could do it in high school, right? And then I just had to go to the DMV and do the little driving test. I did the online stuff at school, and then as soon as I got my driver's license, I had already enrolled. We have a at a college out here called Virginia Western. It's community college, and throughout the summers and spring, they have this motorcycle safety program. So if you sign up for it, you got to sign up in advance. You take the program, teaches you the basics, right? Like figure eights, little circles, U-turns, all that stuff. And then you take a test and you go to the DMV and pretty much show them your certificate and you get your motorcycle license. So yeah, I jumped straight into that, and I already knew how to ride because I grew up riding anyway. And yeah, man, I rode that thing. I put 108,000 miles on my first bike before I threw a rod in it. Yeah.
And you were how old when you bought that ZX6R?
I was 16.
Man, how did you afford a ZX6R, brand new ZX6R at the time?
All right, so check it out. I got the best parents, bro. Listen, I tell everybody this, man. I got the best parents in the world, and that's why I am the way I am with my son Rossi, right? I'm the cool one, right? I give him whatever he wants. I spoil the what out of him. But so I've been talking to my dad about we going back and forth, right? And my dad's like, I'm gonna help you get a bike. Just don't tell your mother, we're just gonna do this. I'm like, yes, daddy, I love you. Let's do this, right? So he's like, we'll get you a used one. And I was like, okay. So I'm looking in the classifieds back when they had the classified ads and the cycle traders. You can go to the store and buy them, right? Yeah, telling my age right here, right? But anyway, so my dad comes home with a brand new Harley Davidson, and I was like, well, why can't I get a new bike? If you got a brand new bike, why couldn't you get a used bike, right? And all that, right? My dad was like, you know what? I tell you what, because I really wasn't doing that good in high school because I was too busy chasing the girls and riding dirt bikes with my buddies, right? That was it. That's all I cared about. When you go through high school, you figure you're smart enough, you can get through life, blah, blah, blah. All that growing up and all that stuff, puberty and whatever. So anyway, yeah. From there, my dad was like, look, I tell you what, you get A's and B's, we'll get you a brand new motorcycle, but you got to save up. I worked, right? I worked while I was in high school. He's like, you save up, I'll match whatever you have for a down payment. Of course, I didn't have the credit because I'm 16. I don't have no credit, right? What's credit? So my dad's like, I'll co-sign the loan. We'll get you this bike. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting it, man. Worked my ass off, and yeah, had a goal to hit. So I went to school and actually paid attention, right? And I tell everybody this, man, I got ADHD. So you know how difficult it was for me because I don't take medicine. So it was like, man, I felt like I was in prison, bro, for real.
Well, you probably had to have something that interested you all the time, right? Because if you didn't have medicine, you need to have something that keeps your focus.
Yeah. And that's why I thought about motorcycles all the time, right? And that's how I did, that's how I got through some of my projects at school and problems when I was stuck on like a math thing. I would just think about motorcycles, and yeah, I would just use that and implicate that in my school. And it brought my grades up. And I'll never forget the day, man, when you get your first motorcycle, right? New or used, it was best day ever, bro.
So fast forward a little bit, you go to MMI, and then that's when what did you do your first track day, or did you end up, because I know back then people used to just get straight into racing, right?
Yeah. So yeah, through CCS, you had to take a school, right? It was a one-day school. You show up, just like you go and do track days. They tell you what to do, what not to do. These are the flags, yada yada yada, the whole nine. You put on the orange shirt. You go out with instructors. They follow you around. Different sessions, right? Group C, Group B, Group A, blah blah blah. That everybody knows the routine, right? And then the following, at the end of that day, you had a mock race between all the orange shirts. Everybody had a mock race. It was me and 4 of my buddies, right? And I whooped their ass, right? But after that, yeah, I mean, I had my amateur license, so we just started signing up for Firebird International Raceway and did all the track days we could do on every freaking weekend we could afford to do it.
Wow. And so you raced for a little bit. Did you do track days at the same time, or you just stuck to racing at that point?
No, I did. So when I got into racing, it was only the 2 years I was there at Phoenix. So when I first got there, I met John and my buddy Ruben and a couple other people, and we immediately, within like a month of me being there and meeting them in school, we signed up for CCS, started getting into that. And then I was like, dude, let's just sign up for some races, right? So we did we did a I forget what they call it. It was like a little 30-minute endurance race, right? It wasn't very long. You can either do it single or 15-minute stints between you and somebody else. It was weird, but this was back in the day. So we did that, and then yeah, I just signed up, dude, and just started racing at CCS at Firebird International Raceway, the East Course, the West Course, and every weekend I could do it, man. I did it. Spent a lot. I'll put it to you like this: my addiction was so bad. I had a Jeep Wrangler. That was my only vehicle besides my mountain bike. I sold my Jeep just to help me keep going racing, right? That drug, that addiction, bro. So I was just left with a bicycle. That's how I got to school. And my school was 10 miles away. So I'd ride my mountain bike to school and catch a ride home or ride that bad boy home.
How did you get to the track? How did you get to the track?
So, well, before I sold my Jeep, I had the Jeep in a trailer,
right?
But when I sold my Jeep, man, I had friends, so I'd borrow their trucks, and me and my buddy Ruben, we did it all the time together, and he had a truck and a trailer, so that's how we did it. And if I had nobody to go and I wanted to go, man, I'd go to U-Haul and rent a truck.
There you go. So you were making it happen, even if you had to struggle a little bit. You sold what you had to. You did everything to get to the track.
Yes.
And do you regret any of it?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I wouldn't doubt it, knowing you. So that's the passion you got to bring to actually kind of go far in this sport. So, I mean, beyond just the racing and what you talked about, let's go a little bit further. How has it kind of impacted, your life even today? Like, what's that impact been like of two wheels on your whole life?
Listen, I can't express this. I mean, you guys see my room, right? This is just half of it, right? You should see my other room. Like, it is my everything. That's all I think about. I eat, sleep, breathe road racing. That's it. That's all I do. That's all I think about during the off season. Guess what? I go back and I watch all the reruns. I mean, that's just what I do to fill in the void, man. Because without me, that's when I really, at the end of the season, is really when I start playing my PlayStation more. Because then I get on Ride 5, because it's either watch the reruns, which I do, until I get kicked out of the room, and people in the house are like, dude, you're watching racing again, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, okay, so I'll go outside and get on my phone, and guess what I'm doing? Watching. I'll go out in my garage, right, and watch. Yeah, it changed my life in such a way that I wish people had some type of passion like we have for two wheels, no matter what it is in life, whether you like to paint, draw, fly a kite, build a boat, whatever it is that somebody is super passionate about. I think if everybody had a passion like we do with motorcycles, the world would be a happier place, because you would be a lot happier as an individual, right? So basically what I'm saying is it changed my whole world to where 99.9% of my clothes is road racing clothes. It's got to have, it's Ducati, Aprilia, KTM, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's got to do with motorcycles. The only 1% is when my wife makes me, she's going to listen to this anyway, dress up without any motorcycle stuff. And it's so hard for me to do that. People, you don't even understand how hard it is for me not to leave this house with at least one thing motorcycle, right? So when I do, I bring a magazine, something with me motorcycle. So I'm watching on my phone. It's hard for me. My wife be like, listen, tonight at dinner, no motorcycles, no motorcycle talks, none of that, right? I'm like, okay. And I still find myself, it's such an addiction for me, man. It's completely, it's taken over my life. And it's become obviously such a passion that I try to give it back via doing the podcast, right? So it changed my whole world. I mean,
well, I was going to say that,
age, it changed my whole world.
You have, and it's your passion so strong that it's spilled over. You're spilled over into the community now. So you're giving back to the community. You're a platform. You've created this platform, which we'll get to in a minute. I want to talk about that podcast too. But you created this platform that allows, racers to share their story that probably would never get shared, unless you talk to them in the paddock. And when are you going to be able to sit down for an hour with any racer, right? So you're able to do that and inspire a lot of young people. And that's just what I'm seeing, but I'll ask you about that too. talk about the community, right? The community is so strong in motorcycles, right? Why is that? I mean, you go around, you see other communities and other sports and stuff, but why is the motorcycle community to where they'll give you the shirt off their back to get your bike back on the track? Why is it like that?
I think that again, it's always got to go down with them twos, man. It's something that brings us together. It's like the glue that bonds us, right? It's the head of Voltron, right? It brings us all together. It's weird, and I've always tried to figure it out myself, right? It's hard to explain. Once you show up to a track day and you get accepted by people that you've never even met before or talked to, or you need help and they approach you because they see your struggles, and you might be too hard-headed to even ask for any help, right? I got this, blah, 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 blah. They'll come up, hey, man, I see you over here struggling, dude. You need some help? Hey, my name's Simko, by the way. What's your name? Oh, man, it's nice to meet you. No, it's an honor to meet you, right? So what are we struggling with, man? Let me help you out, and then you're like, before you know it, you got true family. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it, right? You can pick up like anybody that I know, and even in racing, outside of racing, call me up. I've put my number out live on podcasts and on Facebook, right? So I'm always there for all my family and friends, and I mean that. But it's such a beautiful community, but we're such a tight knit community that it's hard to break that barrier to get into, so to speak, right? Until you make that leap to get to the track and you show up track day, and then you finally get involved, and it's again, our community will absolutely change your life. Even if you just show up and you just do a track day here or there once or twice a year, you'll never forget that experience of those people you met those 2 or 3 times a year, and you look forward to going back and meeting the same group of people again and again, and new people too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. It's just this mutual passion we share, and we're kind of putting our lives on the line a little bit, doing this stuff. And I think that's what also brings us closer. We're all doing this together too. Speaking about the podcast, you've interviewed a lot of racers, a lot of people, but I guess what inspired you to even start the podcast?
So, okay, I didn't even start the podcast, right? So yeah, this is a good chance for me to actually tell the story. So I'm friends with a guy named Andy Rowe. We're still friends. He lives in Florida. We were mutual friends on, I think it's the 1000cc club or whatever on Facebook. So anyway, he knows I'm in Virginia. He's like, hey, I'm coming to VIR. You want to meet up? I'm like, absolutely. Right. So we end up meeting up. We get to talk, and we spent the whole weekend together. He ends up asking me, we get in this in-depth conversation about MotoGP, the aerodynamics, ride height devices, and I was giving him all this shit, right? He's like, can I record this conversation? And I was like, sure. So after we get done, he records it. He says, hey, me and this guy named Jules has a podcast called Pin the Gas Podcast. We do motorcycle racing reviews. I'm going to send him this video. I was thinking maybe you can come on and be a guest and review a race. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So they invited me on. We started doing that together, and then let's get the riders on. Forget the race reviews. Let's get the actual guys on and the girls on and talk, right? And I was more focused on the back of the grid, all the beginners and the people that don't get the TV time, the futures of the sport. Not so much as your Jake Gagne's and all them, right? Because they've been out there. They've been on a lot of podcasts. You can just go to any podcast, put in freaking Josh Heron, and there you go, right? You got multiple ones you can listen to. But I wanted to focus on the voices we don't hear, that you don't ever see on TV, that sacrifice everything to get to the track. That's $80,000 in credit card debt just to race one season. I mean, the addiction is absolutely the best in the world, right? So Andy decided he wanted to go his own way. So me and Jules were just doing it. And then Jules got a job and a girlfriend, and it wasn't his main priority, right? He's still very much part of the podcast. So when he told me that he was, not going to be able to do very much, I was like, hey, you don't mind if I take over the podcast, do you, and just run with it and see? Because I love doing it. Absolutely fell in love doing it. He's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So yeah, and here we are over a year and a half later.
That's awesome. So you carried torch basically after that.
Yep, I did.
And
So
so did they kind of help you with setting it up? I mean, they were obviously brought you in for the racing side of things. You transitioned that kind of into interviewing racers and all these untold stories that, and like I said, would some of them never get told unless it was for a platform like this. So, thank you for doing that. But what are some of the biggest challenges you faced kind of running this by yourself since they left?
man, Rohan, it was I'm not the biggest computer guy in the world, right? So I pretty much figured out it all. I mean, all of it, putting out everything to Spotify, doing it all. I spent countless hours YouTubing and Googling and researching on how to make all this work and how all the platforms speak to each other and how do I do this and how do I do that. I was absolutely nervous, didn't know if I had the ability to do a podcast by myself, much less if anybody really cared if I was by myself or even be interested in listening to what I have to say or anything. But it was such a passion of mine that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm all in, just like I do everything in life. If I love it, I want it, I'm all in, right, until I achieve it. So yeah, I just put one foot in front of the other. And I don't say this very much, but at the beginning, when I started doing it by myself, I was so nervous that I would go in the bathroom and have a conversation with myself in the mirror 10 minutes before we went live on a podcast.
Oh, I
No
believe
bullshit.
it.
Okay.
I believe it. It's nerve-wracking.
Dude, it's like, you got this, bro. Like, pin the gas, baby. Let's freaking go, dude. Let's go, and hyping myself up. But after doing it, it probably took me, honestly, to be honest with everybody, it probably took me a good 2 months doing it by myself to really get comfortable to where I didn't have to have the conversations with myself no more in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
It's just like muscle memory. You get on a bike, you do it 100 times. It's boom,
Yeah.
it's secondhand. So
right. Well, pause for a second. There may be some viewers that are racers that are probably not racing that may want to start their own podcast. So you just mentioned you were super nervous in those first couple ones. Is that still available for people to watch?
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, so I've been having if you go to my Podbean, if you go to Podbean, it's a free app, or you can Google it, Podbean. You just bring it up. I think you got to create a little login, but it's free, and put in Pin the Gas Podcast. I got 276 episodes. Wow. So all the way back from the very beginning, where it was just Jules and Andy, and you'll see me, my first episode with all three of us, and then you can watch and see the whole progression of Pin the Gas grow and evolve. And then where, Jules started doing his own thing, which again, he's still very much part of this podcast. But before I say anything else, man, I need to give a big shout out to Northeast Jules and my buddy Andy Rowe. Because if it wasn't for them two, I wouldn't be sitting here and I wouldn't know any of you guys, right? So nothing but love for both of them. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys so much. You don't even know. But yeah, so after that, man, we was using Zoom at first, and then we used Riverside, and then we did some research and come up. Jules actually was like, StreamYard. This is one called StreamYard. So I started looking it up, downloaded it, got into it, was like, bro, I love this. It's super easy to use, even for a computer illiterate like me, right? Anybody can use it. Yeah. And then so from there it just went on and on and on. And as far as me getting guests, I don't even call them guests anymore. Me getting all my friends on, right? Even future friends that are going to be coming on the podcast that don't even know it yet, right? Or even the ones I got coming up. It's super simple. This is all I do. I just ask the question. That's all it is. I reach out, and anybody that's ever been on this podcast, you guys can consider. Rohan can too. Hey, my name's Simko. I'm from Pin the Gas Podcast. It would be an absolute honor to have you on sometime. That's all I say. And then it's like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. Or some people would be like, okay, and then they'll check in. They'll actually look at the podcast and they'll get back to me. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm in. I had to, check you out and then do all that, because I reach out to people, of course, all around the world. And yeah, and then, from there, man, I was like, it's always been a dream to go to BSB, and my focus is too, Rohan, not just Moto America, of course, all the series, right? Getting everybody on, even the people that are beginning and that have no names over there in ASBK or BSB, same thing as I treat them same as over here in Moto America, right? They have a voice and a beautiful journey and story on how they got to where they are, and it deserves to be told.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, I guess, you know, you're talking about BSB. You're a huge fan of BSB. I know that. You're a huge fan of racing all over the world, right? So who would be your, you know, I guess, top 3 podcast guests, racers, friends that you could pick from all over the world? No holds barred.
My favorite guest. Are you guys? I hope everybody's listening to this right now, right? If not, tune in. I'm gonna give you 3 seconds for this. Are you guys ready, and girls? My top 3 road racers in the world are all my friends that race in the world. They're all my number ones. I don't have a favorite. They're all my favorite. You know why, Rohan? Because each individual friend of mine that's been on this podcast and that's going to be on this podcast in the future has their own individual beautiful journey on how they got to where they are, right? And how it changed their lives individually, right? And to me, it's such a beautiful journey to be able to share that with everybody and their passion and love for the sport so everybody else can hear it, right? So yeah, that's my answer. Everybody, everyone, every single body.
I love that answer, and I'm going to pause to talk about that. But I still want 3 people that I think your favorite racers you've even looked to, dead or alive, doesn't matter. But I want to stop and pause on that, because what you just said there, to me, what that sounds like is you are interested in everyone's story, and it doesn't matter who, whether they're famous on TV or never been seen before, never even maybe possibly raced. You are interested in their story because they have an interest in 2 wheels.
Yep.
And that's beautiful. That's awesome. But I still want to hear your real top 3.
Man. Top three of my friends racing are just my top 3 of all time.
No, don't name the friends, because then friends are going to get mad, right? I don't want to do that. But just top 3, maybe racers, MotoGP, BSB. You've been looking at these guys. You're interested in them.
All right. So, man, you know, I'd have to rank them probably in each category, but I'm just gonna say my all-time favorite racers of all time. Of course, Valentino Rossi, right? Anybody that knows me, I named my son Hayden and Rossi, so of course it's Nicky Hayden and Valentino. That's 2 of them right there. And then Marco Simoncelli. I got a big Marco Simoncelli tattoo, right? Those are my top 3 road racers of all time as far as MotoGP goes. And then, yeah, of course, I got my favorites at the Isle of Man and Joey Dunlop. Of course, Michael Dunlop. How can you not, you know, he's the greatest of all time. And, man, I got a lot of friends that race at the TT too. But all friends aside, Hickman or Davey Todd.
Really?
Okay, I got 4. Yeah, Peter Hickman and Davey Todd for sure. It's but all my friends, just me saying that, I love every single one of y'all, right? And I cheer for every single one of y'all. But those are my, as far as the TT. BSB, man, it's man, growing up, even watching BSB and reading about them in the magazines, off Fast Bikes magazine, and man, all that. It's, I mean, for me, the man growing up, what was Shaky Byrne, dude. Shaky was absolutely murdering it, right? And you got Tommy Hill, you got John Hopkins that raced over there in BSB. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on, bro. I've been a fan of this sport for a long time. I mean, but my all-time top 3, man, is Valentino, Nicky Hayden, and Marco Simoncelli. But again, people, all my friends that race, you guys and girls, are my absolute favorite, from Rohan to, dude, everybody. Jake Wild to Brennan Triplett to Keith Kelly, all of Gus Rodeo, man. I love every single one of you. All you guys are my favorite. Like I said, Rohan, I'd rather buy your t-shirt and your hat and support it and give you shout outs on the podcast and give money to Pedro Acosta or anybody like that. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, it's guys like you that sometimes make or break a racer's budget, a racer's just livelihood for him to race. So it's really people like that show true interest and are really involved, that sometimes keep them going financially too, right? So you buying their shirts, you funding whatever they need to get it done. So, and you've got great energy that you bring to the community. So, and you're big on energy, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I guess when it comes to the word energy, you're huge on energy. So what does that mean to you, like as far as energy itself goes?
So energy's a tricky thing, right? Because this is the best way I can explain it. You know how your parents always told you don't judge a book by its cover? Same thing with energy, right? You can come up with somebody that you always want to meet. Simple answer. You know how the old saying, you don't never want to meet your hero because you're not going to end up liking who they are. I call bullshit. This is what I call bullshit. You don't know what that man or that woman's going through on that particular day, hour, the last 10 or 15 minutes that's going on in their life, right? There might be some outside of that has affected them, and they just don't know how to deal with it at that time. Yeah, it sucks for you, but that don't mean that they're not beautiful, because everybody is in their own way, right? So when you feel somebody's energy, you got to take it with a grain of salt at first, again, because of what I just said, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say is the more you get to know somebody more deeply, then you get to know the real true energy, right? But yeah, I'm an energy guy. So I walk in a room, I could feel the tension in with a knife, right? I walk by whatever pits, you go through pits during the weekend and things ain't just going right and somebody's upset, man, you could feel that. You feel that energy, right? That's what I mean. You could feel it, right? You go by somebody where the weekend's going great, it's nothing but positive and love and vibes. How can you not feel that? If not, you're a zombie walking around. Instead of looking down, look in front of you and enjoy it, right? So you got to be self-aware of yourself before you can be self-aware of what's going on around you too at the same time.
Yeah, that's greatly put right there. I mean, the motorcycle community's, got mostly great energy, a lot of great energy. And sometimes you got the bad apples that I heard, like it was some singer that said, like, whenever they're on stage, it doesn't matter if the whole crowd is clapping, they just focus on that one guy that's like not doing anything or just maybe got a weird face going on, because that's kind of what the negative energy can draw you away. And so you have to kind of control that inner good energy that you have and not let that outside get to you, right? And you've talked about that. When you walk in a room, you can't just judge a book by its cover and let it drain you. You kind of have to start to work your energy almost.
You do, man. It's one thing that I this is kind of off subject, but going on the whole energy thing, I was at work one day and me and my buddy was talking about energy, and the UPS guy shows up, partial postal service, and we had like a ton of packages. Man, this guy gets out the truck and he is absolute just livid. His whole life is just F this, blah, 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 blah. I have a 5-minute conversation with him. Before he left, he gave me a big old hug. Was like, bro, I appreciate you turning my day around. Your energy is just crazy, right? Because man, forget that negative, just positive. Like, what's wrong, man? What can I help? Oh, nothing, blah, 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 blah. I just keep just that positive, just stay and just, I just turned his whole world around, man. I love doing that, man. It's the same thing with on the podcast. I love hearing those stories that never get to get heard, right? Now people can hear them, dude. It's a freaking honor, man. It's like taking a pebble and dropping it in smooth water. And when that story comes out of somebody that's never heard, right, or much less seen on TV, there's ripples.
Ripples, right. I know what you're talking about.
They go out, right? And people listen to it. Now they know who you are, or who she is, right? And boom. So it's
that's amazing. Honor. That's awesome, man. You bring the best energy always to these podcasts. So I really wanted to touch on that subject. So I know it means a lot to you, but last time we were talking on, you were interviewing me, you'd mentioned you kind of lost a lot of weight. When I said I lost a lot of weight, you said you lost a lot of weight. So, well, how much did you lose? And I guess, how did you for these racers? Because there's a lot of racers on here. Probably the top tier racers don't need help with losing weight. They're just on it. But there's a lot of guys that are doing this for fun as a hobby, and they would love to just get motivated to lose weight. So how did a hobbyist and a professional, like you really love this, passionate about this, get yourself to lose weight?
I was unhappy with myself first and foremost, right? So I wanted to make the change. This is what I'm telling everybody. Listen to this. You got to want to make the change yourself from within inside. If you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to achieve your goals. And that's any goal in life. I don't care what it is. You want to buy a house, you got to do it, right? Same thing. You want to lose weight, you gotta put your mind to it. So basically, simple form is I got into Wim Hof, which is the Ice Man, right? Yep. The guy that takes deep breaths and does the ice bath and all that. So I started watching him, started doing the breathing exercises, doing the ice baths. Did that help me lose weight? No. What I did for me to lose weight was, of course, exercise. You got to exercise, right? And I don't mean you don't have to go out here like Maddie Skolt's exercises, right? You don't have to do that, but exercise is very important. So what I do is I do deep breaths, exercise, and then I do push-ups and some planks. That's it. And then I change my diet up. So cut out all fast food, every bit of it. I don't care what you love. Forget that. It's unhealthy. It's bad for you. Everything in moderation will not hurt you. So if you love McDonald's French fries, if you eat them every day, you're going to be, it's not good. It's not going to end well. Okay.
Not gonna end well.
But if you eat McDonald's fries once a month, it's not a big deal. Right. But it's on saying that, I listened to what my body was telling me when I would eat food. And I try to eat more healthier. So instead of, and you hear it all the time, the perimeter of the grocery store, that's what you want to stay, all your fruits and vegetables. And so, and I like to cook at home. So
wait, so say that one more time. The perimeter of the grocery. I've never heard that.
The perimeter of the grocery store. Rohan, when you go to the grocery store and you walk the perimeter of the grocery store, that's where your fruits and vegetables and all that's at. When you get in the middle of that, that's all that processed bullshit, man. You don't want that, right?
And that's why the doors start from the center. You go to the center to get all the junk, all the main stuff on the outside. You got to walk to the back for milk, but you got to walk through the cereal aisle or whatever else.
Or the candy aisle or your corned beef hash, right? Yeah, or any of that crap, right? So what I did was don't get me wrong, I still splurge. I still eat chili cheese dogs. You're freaking right, I do, right? But I tried to, instead of eating bread with it, that's another thing I did is I cut a lot of bread. So instead of eating a whole hot dog with a whole bun on it. Now, if I'm at the racetrack and I'm starving, and my buddy Steve Gregg, which big shout out to Steve and Riston for always feeding me. Of course, I'm gonna eat a hot dog on a freaking bun. But when I'm at home, yeah, I'll eat like a hot dog with chili on it with just cheese and no bun, right? It's still bad for you, but still moderation. But Rohan, the biggest thing for me was the biggest hurdle was the temptation of eating a bunch of junk food and sweets, because we all love sweets. I don't care who you are. You love some. Sour Patch Kids is my worst enemy. To this day, Rohan, if I come over and you got Sour Patch Kids, I'm going to be like, bro, I need 4 of those Sour Patch Kids and you got to put them away. That's all I want, right? Because if not, I'm going to bang them out, man. So when you eat stuff, people, listen to what your body's telling you. What I mean by that is if you eat mashed potatoes at your favorite restaurant and you notice that your noses immediately start getting stuffy after 2 bites of those mashed potatoes, guess what? There's something in those mashed potatoes that your body is not agreeing with. The trick is you got to figure out what that is, right? So you got to go. It took me research. I researched the shit out of foods. Google. I'm at Longhorns mashed potato ingredients. It's got to be FDA. It's got to be online by law. Boom, there it is. So I have this at home. I got this at home. I got this at home. I don't have none of these. And I write them down. And then I go on Google and I'd research what that shit is. Right. Yeah. And that's how I narrowed it down to, but I'm still learning. I still learn every day. Right. Because I don't want to eat the same food every day. Right. So you gotta mix it up. But you really got to listen to what your body's telling you when you eat it, right?
Yeah.
And your body will tell you everything.
Yeah. Well, you paid attention. You paid attention to your body, the foods you ate. Mainly, you got aware, and that's the biggest thing. You said you got to be unhappy with your current situation to change your future situation. So, I mean, you did it, and I guess it was something that made you just not want to be that way anymore, and you made the change. And I bet you it's a world of a difference, right?
Listen, I remember when I was at 270 was my max. That was my heaviest. I was in a 40 waist. I'm in a 34. I weighed myself at the doctor when I went for my MRI on my wrist yesterday. I was 213. So my goal is I want to be like 195. So I still got to get there and reach my goal, which I will. I have no doubt, right? I mean, look how far I come. I'm proud of myself. And that's something else, man. Everybody, you got to be proud of yourself and tell yourself that I'm proud of you.
Yeah. There you go, man. How much were you when you first started it? You said, how much did you lose?
Dude, I was at 270.
Wow. So 60 something pounds almost.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it
That's
took
amazing.
me probably 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
I lost
All right.
I
That's
lost
amazing.
the most within my first month, right? Because when you
Mhm,
first start deeply getting into it,
mhm.
so what I did was real quick story. I was doing those deep breathing exercises, right? I did 3,700 push-ups in 22 days,
Wow.
going from 270 pounds. That's
Yeah.
200
Yeah.
push-ups a day. Woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, did my breathing, didn't stop till I hit my 200 push-ups. I don't care how bad I struggled. Took a cold ass shower, went to work.
Mm.
Did
Wow.
it so hard. I went so hard that I started tearing my muscle away from my shoulder right here. Right, the doc.
Yeah.
I started having, and it still bothers me, and this is why. But doc's like, dude, what are you doing, man? You lost like a shit ton of weight, right? I'm like, bro, I'm doing this, and I showed him on my thing. He's like, dude, you can't do that. You're not freaking 22 no more. You got to
Yeah.
ease into this, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm a Spartan. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to ease into it for sure. I just
Yeah.
came back from the GNF this past weekend. Was super rusty going into it, man. But the first day went great. It went actually pretty good. Second day, my body is beat. And it's a little bit of age and it's a little bit of lack of riding too. When you don't do something for a while, man, it beats your butt like bad. And so I bet you if you try to, I don't know if you're still doing 200 a day, but that's a lot. That's a lot of push-ups.
No, I'm not, because I got my wrist. They think I hurt my wrist, and they think I tore my TFCC tendon in my right wrist. I already had one surgery on my left wrist for a TFCC tendon, so I can't physically do any push-ups, but I can still get on my elbows and do planks. And now I lay on my back and lift my legs up, right, and then just bring them down slowly and hold them, and lift them up and bring them down and slowly and hold them. And when I walk, like at work, I walk as fast as I can half the time, right? Because I walk all the time. So that's my way of kind of getting my cardio in. Because usually when I get off work, by the time I get home, you guys know I usually have a podcast, right? Then I got to eat dinner, and then I got to take a shower, and then it's almost bedtime, right? Family night, and then it's bedtime, So it's I got to get in where I fit in. So I got to get those exercises when I can. And sometimes when I'm at work, I won't even do lunch. I'll whatever, go walk or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Fasting too. Rohan, fasting. Fasting helped me a lot too, right?
That's helped you a lot. Yeah.
So 3 days, I did one whole day of nothing but eat. I did 2 days, 48 hours without eating. And man, I felt okay, but I started getting massive headaches, right? I was like, my body, that's my body saying this. It does. Some people can do it. Me particular, I couldn't do it. So I do intermediate fasting. So I would fast for 1 day. And then I went on a 3 days of nothing but water,
Yeah.
solely
That's
water.
amazing.
So
3
detoxing your
days of
whole
solely
body,
water.
solely water.
My wife's done that a few times, and I don't know how. She on that third day, you can't talk to her, man.
Mm-mm.
You say, "How you doing?" She gets mad.
Yeah, well,
It's pretty
because
bad.
your body's it wants to eat. It's hungry. It's trying to eat itself, trying to maintain, right? But
Mhm.
it detoxes you. I'm not saying do it all the time. I don't. But in my going from 270, so my original goal was 270 to 220. I'm like, shit, that's 50 pounds, right? That's good. Of course, I'm like, nope. I set a goal 195. So I still fast, but I haven't done the 3 days without water. I did that probably 6 times during that
Wow.
whole 6 to 8 month period.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's days where I'll go almost all day. But when I do eat, uh, if I go 16 hours with no food and I do eat, it's simple fruits and vegetables, like
Yeah.
raw, not
Right.
cooked, raw green
Right.
onions, raw carrot, raw
Yeah.
cucumbers,
Yeah.
apple, whatever, right? That
That's
natural sugar. Try to stay away from all the unnatural sugars. It's very
mhm.
hard because there's unnatural sugars in every freaking thing you pretty much eat, even at the
Right.
grocery store. But
Dude, ketchup had sugar in it. You know
bro,
what I'm saying?
straight
Everything.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I buy the ketchup. Dude, and funny thing, bro, I don't think I've ever said this. I don't eat ketchup. The only time I eat ketchup is with French fries. And 90% of the time, I'd rather have homemade ranch and hot sauce mixed together
Right.
for what I eat, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm weird, man. I'm not a big ketchup guy.
Yeah, yeah. My wife's been making a lot of bases now with like a mayo and a Greek yogurt base, and she'll put sriracha in it, different
Mhm.
spices. It comes out really good. Man, I want to take a second here, and I was actually smiling at these comments. Keith Kelly said, "Another bison guy on the podcast."
You already know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bison, man. Listen, real quick, big shout out to Bison. Everybody knows they're one of my major sponsors. And to me, they're not even a sponsor. I don't even like to use that word sponsor. And I come up with a new word. Are y'all ready for this? I'm an ambassador for Bison, right? I
Okay,
said,
let's
nope,
go.
I'm an ambassador
Oh,
for
okay.
Bison.
Kind of put a play on the words, huh?
Yep, put a play on the words. New word of the day, right? So yeah, big shout out to Robert and Tasha and Carter and everybody at Bison, man. I love them guys. They're absolutely amazing human beings, and I want to see them thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got Birch here saying, "Hey, here we go." We got Kevin saying, "Cheetah, Stu, big Stu." He just raced, man. He had an unfortunate weekend. His weekend got cut really short. Bike crashed, frame cracked.
Oh
So shout out
no.
Stu, man. Hope you're doing better and the bike's and coming back together somehow. That's one fast guy there. Stu said, "My neighbors got into track days and racing while MMI." Okay, there we go. While attending MMI as well. So
Nice.
something about that just carries you to that profession, the passion, the ride, and everything.
That's it.
So that's awesome. Here we go. Chris the show. Keith said, "You're a natural." Oh, that's nice of him to say. Okay, appreciate it, man. And then you've got hold on, where was this?
Thank you,
Steve
Keith.
Grigg said, "Bro, Zohan and taking over."
Steve's awesome.
We love having Simko in the paddock. We love having
Steve, I
Simko.
love you and your
Yeah.
family and Rist and everybody too, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, they're really good people. So
Yes, they are.
yeah, so that's awesome, man. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about a good bit here, man. But one thing we haven't touched on is, what do you? I guess what do you do for work?
So the business that I was at for the past 8 years went under. So I'm currently working at this place called Renaissance. They're a lighting company out here in Roanoke, Virginia. So basically we do powder coating, welding, of course. They freaking fabricate. So they make a lot of stuff for all your Longhorn benches you see at all Longhorn restaurants. So there's big metal benches and all that. We make all those. We make a bunch of stuff for Kroger's and their gas pumps as far as their black trash, their metal trash can bins. We make those, and in the bins you see out there at Kroger that hold their antifreeze and all that products and stuff in it. We make all that. We make stuff for casinos, man, a lot of one-off stuff for customers. We even do woodworking. I mean, they do a little bit of everything. So,
Okay, so it's a lighting company that does all metal work too.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome.
It's all fabricated.
Fabrication, yeah. And
Yeah.
what do you do there? You do welding there?
No, I'm actually in the powder coating.
Powder coating. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the powder coating side. It's not, listen, it's not my favorite thing to do, right? It's just when that job went under, I had to get a new job, right? My buddy worked there, so of course it was just an easy transition to get in there. But my dream, obviously, would to make a living off the podcast, right? That is my dream. But I've really been thinking about doing like the Uber and the shop, whatever it's called, and getting away out of corporate America and kind of doing my own thing. Of course, I'm a motorcycle mechanic, so I do work on people's bikes on the side. But with that being said, I haven't done as much lately because the podcast consumes me. And what I mean by that, in this short life that we live, Rohan, as you get older, you realize you got to pick and choose on where you want to devote your time and your passion to. Okay, because we're not here for very long. So I choose doing the podcast instead of doing customer bikes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because then it would take away from my podcast. I work on my own bikes, right? Of course, I'll make time for that, but I'll help people out. But yeah, I'm done taking pretty much customer bikes in and ordering parts and doing. I just don't have the time for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so simple answer. I work at Renaissance here in Roanoke, Virginia. Lightning. We do powder coats. If you need something powder coated, hit me up. I'll get you powder coated up. It's cool, man. I like a lot of the people I work with. and that's a big thing for me too, right? Again, is the energy, right? You got to like the people you work with. It's yeah, so it's cool, man. I
Well,
like
look,
it. I
dude, I
like
mean,
it.
most jobs, most people don't love them. I mean, it's always a job, right? Even these pro racers, right? Matty Schultz. I mean, at one point, it's not fun to him. It's like a job at one point, right? Because when times aren't coming on the right way he wants it, tires don't feel good, bike ain't running good, it's suddenly work. You know, it's not that fun when you're not doing at the top. So as long as it pays your bills, man, you got time to do the podcast, and mainly you got time for your family. I say you're in a win-win.
Oh,
So
for sure, 100%.
so talk about your family, man. I met Rossi that day on the podcast. You mentioned you got Hayden. You got 2 kids?
No, Hayden is his first name, Hayden Rossi.
Oh, Hayden
So
Rossi. Okay.
yeah, so funny story. I don't think too many people know this neither. So Rossi Moore's dad, Steve. Big shout out to Steve and Rossi, man. I love those, man. They're absolutely amazing human beings.
Yep.
When I first reached out to Steve to get his son Rossi on the podcast, we was talking about, I was like, hey man, how did you come up with naming your son Rossi? Right? He's like, oh, he goes in this long spill, right? He said the same exact thing. He's like, oh, originally I want to name him Valentino Rossi. I was like, no bullshit. Me too, bro. Like, no, I'll call my wife and she'll tell you right now. Yeah, he did, but I wasn't having that. Right. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, of course, my wife knew nothing about motorcycles. I met my wife on a blind date through mutual friends. And obviously I'm this motorcycle nut. I'm like, she's gonna love me or she ain't. She's either with motorcycles or she's not, right? So we're gonna find out. But anyway, she's here. So I met her on this blind date. Took her ride and introduced her to the whole motorcycle world, blah blah blah. As soon as she seen Nicky Hayden, the first thing she said was, he's the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life. Right. So when she got pregnant, I was actually pulled up to my buddy's house. I had a 1970, I think it was, C10 Chevy. Had the high beam, low beam on the floorboard. I just gave away my age, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, when my wife called, right? I'm sitting in the truck, Zohan. She's like, she's crying hysterically. I'm like, what's wrong, babe? She's like, I'm pregnant. I was like, whoa, let's go. Yes, let's go.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not mad? I'm like, hell no. My truck's running. I get out, lock the door, and shut it. My keys are in the truck and it's running. I was like, oh
man.
shit, let me call you back. Right. So I ended up breaking in my own truck that day. But yeah, it's when my wife was pregnant with Rossi, I played when she was laying down in bed, man. Yeah, road racing. That's it. We're watching road racing. Rossi's gonna listen to nothing but road racing, and we don't call him Hayden. We call him Rossi. And yeah, he's I tell everybody this, Ron. I know you don't have kids, but the day you do, man, when you first hold him or her and they finally arrive here and you cut that umbilical cord, like Rossi was crying, right? And they take him over to the incubator and I ran over there, man. I'm so excited, dude. I'm freaking bawling, crying with tears of just all these emotions you never even felt before, bro. It's hard to explain. I run over there, I stick out my finger and I hold it up and I was like, Rossi, it's your dad. It's so great to meet you, man. What an honor. I can't believe you're here, right? And he grabs a hold of my finger and he didn't cry no more. Right. So, bro, awesome. I'm telling you, dude. So me and my boy, we've been in cahoots since day one. I'm trying the first 30 seconds, bro. I'm trying to tell you.
That's amazing.
I put Rossi above everything in my life because he is my everything in my life, right? So yeah, he's that's why, you know, he asked me when I started doing the pod, is it okay if I bust in here and start talking? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, dude. Because this is real life, right? I like that. That's why I do live podcasts, because it's live, it's raw, it's uncut, it's emotion, it's this, it's that, right? So my son wants to come in here and show cool Lego knives or get on and say, what's up, everybody, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go, right?
You show me a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you're a genuine human being, right? So yeah, it's and then I go to my parents' house once a week at least and eat dinner with them, real close to my parents. So yeah, I'm a family man through and through.
That is amazing to hear, man. And a lot of people lack that these days. You know, family doesn't mean much to them. And I could tell right off the bat when he walked in and you just, the way you were interacting with the energy, remember? It's just, I could tell you raised him right and he's got a great dad. And it's just amazing to see that's, you know, the interaction. And it's more amazing to see that you guys share the same passion as me together, right? Motorcycle racing. So he loves it, huh? He loves it pretty.
Man, you know, when he was first born, like before he was even here in this world, I got him a TTR 50, and his very first Christmas, he was born November 19th, so his first Christmas, he was what, 20 something, 22 days, 27 days old or something like that. He had a KTM Strider bike. That's Nikki's like, he's not even big enough. He ain't crawling yet. I was like, I got it. He'll get there. No problem. Right. We got this. So he started off, on this Strider, and I got pictures of him in his diaper out there sitting on the TTR and turned the key on. He'd fire it up. He'd immediately cut the key off. He'd be like, okay. He'd go back in the house, right? It's something that I've never forced upon him, right? So racing starts coming on. He's getting older. I'm like, hey, you want to watch these races with me? He's like, yeah, let's watch it, right? So I'm like, hey, you want to ride this bike or I'm going to sell it? He's like, nah, just go ahead and sell it. So I sold it, right? Ended up getting him another bike because he wanted it. He didn't ride it, so I sold it. Got another bike. He ended up not riding it, so I traded it. But when we met Yandel Mendia, big shout out to Yandel and his dad, Carlos, at VIR the same day that I met Andy that invited me on this podcast, which we're here now.
Yep.
Every time he goes, man, he rides this little 50 around, CRF 50, like everywhere, right? Of course, when he got on his dirt bikes, I taught him what I could when he rode them for whatever, 5-6 minutes or whatever. But man, he got on this little 50, like he been riding it forever. I mean, every time we go to the races, right? He's all into it. And then he told me when we was at Jersey, he's like, hey, Dad, will you guys buy me a dirt bike for Christmas? I promise I'll ride it. So it's going to be the 4th dirt bike I done bought this little dude. So hopefully, again, Rohan, it's not something that I don't want to force it upon him. He already knows where my heart sits at, obviously, right? It's not hard to tell. So maybe one day he'll learn. I don't want to say learn to love it. Maybe one day it'll move your soul in a way nothing else has ever touched it, right? And make you feel a certain way that nothing else can replicate. Maybe he'll love it as much as me, but he does enjoy going to the races and hanging out with his friends, right?
Yeah.
He's a huge fan of Yandel, Avery Dreyer, dude. He freaking loves Avery Dreyer. Kayla, he loves Kayla. Dude, he's at the races, Ron. He's definitely, I'll put it to you like this. We show up to a Moto America paddock. I don't even worry about my son. Like, as soon as we get out the car, he's like, I will go find Yandel. I'm like, okay. And I might see him 4 times that whole day.
Has he shown any interest in wanting to race?
No, he's just shown some interest into wanting to ride. He hadn't shown that interest. He's a Lego kid, man. He loves to build stuff, right? So he's always in there building stuff, maybe he'll grow up and be a motorcycle engineer. I don't know, right? His path might be, but if my kid grows up and was just like, motorcycles ain't for me, I like to watch the race and go hang out there and hang out with our friends, and that's it. Hey, I'm perfectly happy with that. You know why? Because in the short lifetime, he's my son, and I got to spend this life with him, man. So, and he's happy. That's all I care about. That's it. I don't care what he does. So
that's beautiful. So, a lot of parents want their kid to be just like them, right? And you just want them to be happy. And we need more people like that, because sometimes parents get disappointed with what their kid turns out to be. Even if it's a success in their own world, their parents had a different outcome in their mind. And so it's beautiful that you have that. And you're a family man through and throughout, like you said, right? So I love that. So you've been international to some tracks, right?
I've been to the only international track I've been to was my favorite track, which is Cadwell Park out in the UK. Absolutely. So I'll put you like this.
Why is that your favorite track, by the way? Because I know you mentioned that.
So when Fast Bike magazine and all that was out, those are all European magazines, right? We had Road Racing World. I was subscribed to Road Racing World when Road Racing World magazines were literally this big. You guys out there listening, if you was back then and subscribed, you know exactly what I still got some. I got a shit ton of them downstairs. Yeah, I keep all, dude, Rohan, my wife would be like, dude, listen, I got so much. You think y'all have no idea. You guys really don't. It's bad. It's not bad. It's good, right? This addiction. It's I'm not crazy, right? You can't tell a man he's crazy, right? But yeah, it's anyway. Yeah. So in fast bike magazines, man, because they you couldn't really watch BSB on American TV, right? So it was all in the magazines, right? And
Yeah.
they had that famous mountain jump, and I'd see pictures of
Mhm.
them jump. I was like, dude, what track is this, right? Cadwell Park.
Yeah.
What the hell is Cadwell Park? It's in the UK. What BSB? What is BSB, right? So that was my introduction into fast bike magazines, all performance bikes magazines, all the European magazines that I paid for to get subscriptions to. That's how I became a fan of BSB. And then I met Dave Neal. So Dave Neal has a podcast. Big shout out to Dave Neal, called Off Track, not Brothers in Christ. Off Track out there in the UK. When I first got invited on the podcast, I think he was our third or fourth guest. I had invited Dave Neal. I've been a huge fan of Dave Neal's for a long time. I mean, a long time. Before podcast was famous, he was doing one called Motopod, and that was like on the radio. And that was like pre-podcast. So I've been a huge fan of Dave. So anyway, I invited him to our Facebook group, Pin the Gas. He accepted. He's like, yeah, thanks for the invite. My name's Dave Neal, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, I know exactly who you are, right? So I was like, hey, it'd be an honor to have you on the podcast. That's where I'll, from the very earliest days, that's what I've always said. It'd be an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. And he's like, yeah, sure. So as I do with most people, as you already know, because you've been on here, we either do a phone call or do a pre-video chat, right? Even if we schedule a pod, you want to do a run, so you know how everything works. We sit down and do a pre-run. Same thing with Dave on the phone. Let's do a chat, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, one thing led to another. We of course, you guys know me. We're all friends here. When you meet me, you can't, I love all you guys, right? It was instant friendships. So I was like, dude, my dream's always, I want to come to Cadwell Park. He's like, get your passport and a plane ticket. Let's go. So, boom. Next thing I know, I'm headed to Cadwell Park, and yeah, to see it in real life is
that's amazing.
Man, it's the most beautiful thing you ever seen. Is that mountain jump? I'm telling you. Besides the TT is my all-time favorite race of the year, hands down, bar none. Is the Isle of Man TT.
Well, heck, man, when are we going to TT? That's the question.
Listen, we'll definitely plan it because my dad wants to go.
Keith Kelly with us. Let's pack Keith Kelly in the bag.
Let's do it. Ryan said you're old, bro. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh man, that's funny.
That's awesome. Mark Sherman. So Sherm Dog, he's with CFE. He's a good buddy of mine. I love him to death. Him and his girl.
Yeah. Mark, does he know your dad too?
Yeah, man. So he's big into aviation. Of course, my dad was a fighter pilot. So once Mark met my dad last year at Jersey, not this past year, but last year. Once he found out he was a pilot, Mark's like, next year I'm gonna talk your dad's head off, blah, 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 blah. My dad just retired. So that's Mark's, one of his passions is flying and the whole airlines and all that. So my dad gave it to him, his whole freaking United Airlines captain suit with the captain hat and the wings and all that. So
wow.
Yeah, obviously you know where my energy, my love comes from. If you ever met my dad, like Mark has, so yeah, it's that's where I get it from for sure.
That's amazing. You know, David Smith.
Yep, David Smith's my homeboy, so I love David Smith. We actually need to spend some time together. I know it's one of those things we always say we're going to do. We need to get up soon. We need to do this, right? We need to. We really need to do it. I went to high school with David Smith. He's one of those very few friends you count on fingers you stay in touch with out of high school, pretty much your life. So he's a lifelong friend of mine. He lives here in the Valley where I live, and I love you, Dave. I miss you. I hope all is well for sure.
That's awesome. Tim,
Rohan, life gets the Cheeta on the mic. Yes, the Cheeta is on the mic. I love it.
Tim Price is awesome, man. He's helped out a lot of us on suspension stuff, and that's another guy that goes unnoticed a lot of times, but he's putting a lot of people on the podium. So I know that.
Tim Price, hit me up. We'll get you on the podcast. 100%.
Yeah, Tim, there you go. Tim, that's your invite.
Hit me up.
Yeah, he's definitely good. And And I think he's done a couple others, but yeah, he needs to. I thought he had done yours. That's interesting.
I haven't had him on.
So I got a question for you. You kind of asked something similar to this. If you had, let's just say, an unlimited budget for a race team, what's going to be your 2 riders and the brand of bike you're going to pick to do this right now in this day?
It could be America.
It could be old riders too, historic that are retired. We'll bring them back to their prime for this example. So who are they? Who are the 2 riders you're going to pick?
Moto America, manufacturer motorcycle, and my 2 top riders right now. I would obviously it'd be the Superbike class, right? I would do, man, you know, my love and passion is so deep for Ducati. I instantly want to say Ducati, but I wouldn't go that route. I'd bring somebody in that hadn't been in there that needs to be back in there, right? So I would go full Kawasaki.
Man, look at you. Let's pause for a second. Look at that, man. You just want to, man, I love that. That's energy right there. You want someone else to come back. You know, by the way, Kawasaki and World Superbike, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, man, tell me more.
Kawasaki, yeah, Kawasaki, because they need to be back in the show, man. We need you guys back. So yeah, I'd bring them back for sure, 110%. Man, two riders in the paddock right now in Moto America. First one I'm going for is man, SDK, 110%. I'm putting SDK on a Kawasaki. My second rider, I would put Brandon Posh, B Posh. I'd pick Brandon Posh and SDK. I'd put him on the Kawasaki Superbike team in Moto America.
And if you were to summarize why those 2, why would you pick them? I'm sure some people wonder.
Yeah, so man, at SDK, I've been following him. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Which you guys stay tuned. I like his ride style. I love his energy. I love the way he approaches races. I love the way he approaches fans. He reminds me, his energy, it matches my energy like 2 cogs, right? It's that. Yeah. That's one thing I like about him, right? It's always positive. You don't never see him yelling, screaming, kicking, none of that. And he's fast, man. He's so fast. He's got one of the best natural riding styles. So if you watch road racing and you really pay attention to all the riders, everybody's got their own unique style to it, but you really got to pay attention. It might be foot position, the way they hang off, their elbows out a little bit more. One's a little bit more tucked in. Their shoulder might be twisted. One might be square. One might be this way. It's just things as you being a fan growing up and really wanting to learn, right? You'll pick up on that. But his natural riding style, and Brandon Posh, man, listen, dude, who don't love B Posh? He brings that yin to the yang with SDK, right? SDK's all positive, Posh is too, but he's got a lot of clown side to him too as well, right? So I think them 2 would make a good dynamic team, and who don't love and if I bring the Kawasaki team back, it's not going to be just green. I'm going back old school 90s, purple, pink, blue, and green on the bike, straight up. Yes, that's how we're going to run it.
Man, that sounds like a dream team right there. And when you just talked about those 2 riders, I'm glad I asked why, because you're right. I mean, they would push each other, you know, mentally, physically to get to that next level. And that's what you want to see with a team like that. So that's awesome. Maybe you get the budget one day to do that, man, because that stuff is expensive.
It is.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. I mean, if I guess if you could ride, you know, your current bike right now, on any place on earth right now, where would you go? Where would you take it right now? I think I have an idea.
Yeah,
where was it? Cadwell Park? Yeah.
Cadwell Park. Okay. But besides Cadwell Park, man, I really, dude, Magello, Phillip Island, Andalusia.
I was gonna say Isle of Man.
Of course, the TT, right?
Yeah,
I would definitely want to ride the TT. Who that road / circuit, man, it's got. Let me ask you guys. Let me ask everybody this: the first Grand Prix race was held where? At the very beginning, when Grand Prix racing first started,
where was
the first race? The Isle of Man TT.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. The first GP race.
The first, yep.
That's insane. Legendary.
Legend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to ride the TT course. It'd be a lot. I'm not gonna say a lot, but you know, you hear a lot of people give the TT negative. Oh, it's so dangerous. It's this. We shouldn't be able to do this. Listen, I don't see that. What I see is love and passion, right? This freedom. You will never get free. There's no other race like that in the world. What freedom do you want, right? That's like the ultimate. Close down the streets, 37.5 miles on public roads, and let them just eat. Get to it, right? Fastest rider wins. It's like, bro, that's the most beautiful story ever. That's the greatest story ever told, is the TT, right? It's such a beautiful, magical place. Imagine one day when we get to go, Rohan. Yes, I say one day, right? So I don't never like to use the word I hope, blah, blah, blah. No, it's I am, I will, and I'm going to, and this is how I'm going to achieve it, right? So when I do go to the TT, when we go to the TT, imagine the history and the energy you're going to feel when you get there, right? I mean, it's like, bro, it's like I just want to touch the ground like in a superhero movie and just feel that energy coming from the soil in Douglas, right? It's like, bro, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, it's just when you go to those older places with history with it, you could just feel it oozing out of the stones and the road and the buildings and everything. I love that.
Same thing like Cadwell, real quick. You asked me Cadwell, not only because of the magazines and the famous mountain jump, but once you start doing your research on Cadwell Park and you get to know the history on it, how can you not love the place? It started out as a farmer and his two boys. Okay, so originally he made it a dirt bike track. And then I don't want to give the story away. You guys go check it out. Go do your history on Cat. Anyway, the original farmhouse still stands. Okay, at the track, dude. It's that richness in history and the farmer and the two sons and where it is now and how it got to be what it is. Man, it's a beautiful story.
That's beautiful. Yeah, some of these things. I mean, it's just we don't even know the history of it, you know. And when you start looking into it, it just wow. I mean, and then you look at the time they did all this stuff, and it's just so amazing to see that they were doing this stuff back then. So I guess if, you know, we've talked about, you've asked this question plenty of times on the podcast to others, but, you know, guys these days trying to get into riding, racing, whatever it is, they're told to get a 400. They're told to get a 600 because it's a little bit faster. They're told to just start off with 1,000. That way you don't have to jump up later and buy one. Just start off with 1,000. Where would you suggest someone starts off? And is it dependent on other things?
My best advice to anybody starting out is you need to go to SFL Mini GP, either down in South Florida or New Jersey. Get on those programs. Their programs are absolutely amazing. You don't even have to have gear, a motorcycle, none. You can rent it all. You just sign up, pay your registration fee, you show up, right? So I think you really want to if you just want to learn how to ride, take a rider safety course. But if you really want to learn how to ride, listen to what I'm saying. If you really want to learn how to ride, not just the basics, but you really want to learn how to ride, take your race school, right? Yes, get you a 300. Put the ego aside. You don't need a Gixxer 750, a V4 1000 R, the BMW. No, you don't need none of that, right? It's you're going to learn so much riding a slow bike fast, and you everywhere riding a fast bike slow. You know why? Because you're scared of shit of that fast bike. You can't handle that bike. You get out there and you twist that throttle, you're like, holy shit. I'm glad this thing's got traction control and anti-wheelie. If not, I'd have done freaking wrecked it right out the parking lot, right? So, yeah, dude, absolutely. The lower bikes. I'm a big advocate on small bikes. Small bikes. Dude, you don't think, why you think you see pictures of Valentina Rossi and the whole Riders Academy? Guess what? They're riding small bikes like the freaking Ovales and all that. There's a reason why they're doing that. Well, how do you think they grew up? Riding little bikes like Ovales.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yeah, you have to start small, and
gotta start small.
What would you say to a big guy?
A big guy, a big heavy set guy, man. I would say, yeah, you know, obviously you're gonna need stiff springs and a revalve in your rear shock for sure.
Yeah.
But still, it's still the same.
Yeah.
Start out on a smaller bike, man. You got to, because the small bikes is going to teach you all about corner speed, all about braking, right? Which means it's you're going to have to look through the corner. You have no choice because you don't have the power to make it up. You have to really pay attention to what you're doing because, again, you don't have the power to make it up. So as far as is the most important is coming out the corner and maintaining that speed because the bike don't make enough power to get out of weight paper bag. So it's all about corner speed and braking, right? So even a heavier set guy, let's say, yeah, the motorcycles, 400, man. You really don't need nothing bigger than a 400. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Rohan, I got this conversation with my buddy the other day. He's like, Simko, I heard your podcast. You talk about this little 400. I'd eat it up. I'd blah, blah. I'd smoke anybody on a 400. I said, all right, buddy, check it out. Let's get in your truck. I'll call my man Curtis and you get on, we'll go down to Florida. You can get on the track. You can race my man Isaac Woodworth. He's on his little 400. You be on your little 1,000, whatever it is you got. And I'm just going to laugh as your ass is getting waxed all the way around and say, I thought you could outride this 400. What happened? What happened? Yeah. What happened? You tell me, because you can't ride. I'm not saying, listen, what I mean by that is, yeah, anybody can get on a bike and pin the gas and do the clutch and stoplight to stoplight and whatever. But in order to really learn how to ride, absolutely small bikes, 110%.
Yeah. No, I agree. Less risk, you learn more room to learn.
Cost effective.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cheaper parts, all that stuff. So let me ask you this though, because I've seen them injecting e-bikes into the game, right? They're the electric bikes, right? So where do you think that's going? I mean, is that a new thing that may, get into racing more, or where do you see that going in the industry?
I think that the concept's cool, right? Yeah. For who don't love the smell and the sound of a real motor, right?
Right.
Listen, the electric bike's a cool concept. I think it could work. I really do. But when I say that is they need to figure out the battery technology. Or battery technology is not where it's at now to where it needs to be. We have come a far way, but also I'm older school too. So I think about everybody out there that's got a Tesla, an electric bike right now. What are you gonna do if we get a flood? You ain't going nowhere. Guess what? I can take the spark plug out of my bike, hold it upside down, put some fresh oil in it, put a new plug in it.
Yep.
Deuces, baby. Where you at, Mr. Electric?
Right? You know what I saw the other day? I saw a Tesla, and the guy opened his trunk. He had a mini generator, Honda generator in there, gas generator to charge his car. So nice. It's funny. I look at it like this. I look at it like it's like a true enthusiast is always going to want a motor with oil and gas in it. And if you ever look at watch enthusiasts, they got to have the rotating mechanism in there, and they got to be able to see it and all that. The real, watch enthusiasts. And sure, you can get a digital watch to tell you time. It's the same way as getting an e-bike to maybe travel and get around. But true racing, you want to hear the sound, the gears, and the torque is so insane. I mean, they would have to tame it all the way down to make sense and all that. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was just curious on your take on it because you probably know more than me about it. But yeah, I don't see it going.
They're cool. My buddy's got a man. I forget the name of that. It's electric BMX bike. Damn it, Saran, I think is the name of it. Man, listen, it's fun as shit to ride. I'm like, holy shit, this thing's a lot of fun. I was like, how much was this thing? It's like $6,000 used. I was like, holy shit, $6,000 for an electric mountain bike?
Yeah.
What the hell are you smoking, man? You gotta go buy you a proper 400 for $6,500. Go out here and do a lot of track days and have a whole lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, listen, it's obviously maybe I don't know, man. I don't. Me personally, I don't never see gas being ever done finished, right? Even in Star Wars, you see gas powered shit, right? It's a cool concept. It could work, but I don't know, man. I got really mixed feelings on it. I just don't think we're far enough advanced as far as battery technology. For example, you go out and you spend $110,000 on this new Cybertruck, right? You can go 400 miles on it before you got to charge it. Yeah, same thing. I can go 400 miles on my car, but I need gas, right? But still, guess what? I pull up to a gas pump. It's literally 5 minutes, and I'm deuces. You're there for at least 30 minutes with that thing plugged in, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Which, again, it's pros and cons, but I don't want to have to go travel across the United States thinking, oh shit, there ain't no electric pumps within a 600-mile radius, and I got 55 miles to go, and I'm dead. What you
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. I mean, and then you put some weight on the Cybertruck, you tow a trailer,
Bro.
you're getting 50 miles or 100 miles to the charge, whatever you call it, right? So,
right.
Yeah, I don't see that. I mean, I definitely don't see that. But what do you think about this? They're trying to get away from the 600s in the super sport class. They're almost trying to get away from it entirely, which is sort of so weird because it's like the most popular stuff when it comes to racers, right? But not everyone's a racer. Majority of people don't race, right? So where do you see this trend going with them going to like 900s and stuff like that? Do you see that sustaining, or are they going to come back around? I mean, what do you see?
Man, it's where we are in a great time of and period of road racing, but the evolution of it is a little confusing, right? Because when you 600 super sports are always 599 cc's, right? And then if you really think about it, it started back when Kawasaki made the 636. Now they allowed the 636 to race against the 600s. Oh, that's unfair. It's got a 2mm overboard, blah, 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 right? Oh, let's allow little modifications to the ones that don't have a big bore, and then here we are. Ducati 959s versus Gixxer 750s versus 675s versus 599 C's R6, right? It's like, what are we doing? I feel like, man, I feel like the way we are in the world right now, man, it's the 1,000 cc's are on the way out, right? Yamaha's not making R1 no more. CBR's not really making. You can't even buy a Gixxer 1000 after this year. It's the whole first full circle. I kind of see us going back to, I wish they'd bring 750s out. We don't need, who really needs a 250 horsepower motorcycle to go racing, right? Again, I'm thinking about the cost of racing. Let's bring it back, right? To the especially MotoGP going to 850. You really think the Japanese and everybody's going to continue to make a 1000 on the street when our premier class is going to go to 850? Absolutely not, right? Yeah, I feel like they're in that honeymoon, a little bit above the honeymoon stage to where they're still trying to figure each other out and trying to figure out what direction, because the manufacturer is going to dictate where the racing goes, period, right? Hence the new R9, right?
Yep.
The R9 just dropped. Everybody's R9, triple cylinder, right? Makes same horsepower as a R6, pretty much same weight, right? I mean, it's pretty much a 600 with one cylinder off, and they made it a 900, and they put an R9 on it with two little gay ass wings on it. Let's just be honest, right? I'm not a wing fan. I like my wings with hot sauce on them, but on a motorcycle, absolutely not. That's a whole other subject. I feel like, again, we're like in this stage of racing where they're trying to figure out, what everybody's going to do. Do I like where it's going? It provides great racing. So who don't like that? Okay. Exactly. As long as the race is good and it brings outside sponsorships in and our sport grows, I don't give a shit if we're racing a 25cc, whatever. I don't care. As long as our sport grows, right? And the cost effective is a lot down where it needs to be, because it's so expensive right now. I feel like, that's my answer. I feel like we're in this growing state. We're really not sure, because, dude, we're racing almost 1,000 cc versus 600.
Yeah,
think about
it.
Yep. Right. So why do we have a superbike class if we're racing almost 1,000 cc's in a 600 class? I get it. It's got a electronic cool ECU. Cool. Then the 750's got fly-by-wire on it to tame it down. Cool, because they can control it, right?
Yeah.
Why not say fuck all that and bring back 600s and race 600s? It's a super sport class. It's simple. Keep it simple. under 600 cc's. Period.
I wonder if it has something to do with just the fact, like the brands, when they're sitting at the boardrooms, they still have to show that they're continuously innovating. And if they keep bringing back, I mean, people complain about the 636. It's the same thing. They still don't have fly-by-wire. All these complaints on this side, but when they bring something new out, they got complaints too. You know, it's like it's tough to kind of like bring the right product to the market. And sometimes when they're creating that, they're disconnected from the consumer, and the consumer doesn't know what's going on to even make these bikes. It's so much disconnect that we're just kind of all over the place with our passion. So hopefully it gets fixed and we just get some good racing. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's all I really care about, man. Like, you know, I see what they're doing. I see kind of the direction they're kind of going in. But again, it's like, to me, it's like the people that run it are making all these rules. They're just as confused as we are.
Right.
Because they really don't know what direction they're going to go into. Because again, it depends on what the manufacturer is going to make, right? Yeah. So if you have our superbike class, let's say example, but you can only buy race bike versions of superbikes, and you're going to fork out at least $85,000 for a bike. Gosh. Who the fuck can afford that?
Yeah.
So why have a superbike class racing 1000s when it's that much, right?
Right.
I mean, there's just a lot of things to look at in the whole scheme of things. I wonder where we're going to go with it. Again, you know, Rohan, when we talked, it was like, I feel like the journey just in life in general, especially, and you can put this on everything, whether it's individual life or the NBA or football or whatever, right? It all starts off as a branch of a tree, right? And then it starts growing, and then it starts getting branches on it. There's all these different paths and ways everybody can go and to do that, right? I think that's where we're at with road racing right now. There's so many unknowns, especially with, you know, dude, the election's coming up. They're not making 1000s anymore. I mean, people got to understand, you got to look at the whole picture. You just can't look at a little piece of the pie and come to this conclusion. You got to step back and look at the whole moon before you can comment anything about the moon. You got to study it and really understand where it could potentially be going, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically, it's not really an answer, but it is an answer, because I guess simple answers, I'm quite unsure. I feel like if we're gonna be 600s, 599 cc's, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know, right? So, and the thing is, all these racing organizations slowly kind of work with these manufacturers to start shifting the racing itself. And you see that with Moto America, they've shifted the rules. You know, they did that before these bikes even came out. They started shifting the super sport class. And the problem is, you got a lot of, you know, privateers. The grids consist of majority of privateers, and it's beating up our wallets. You know, it's beating up, you know, here we go. Here's Shane right here. He's talking about great racing this weekend. He's a legend in the game. You can see his abs through the profile. That man's a beast on the track. And he beat me up on the track, man. It was tough racing him. We had some good battles. I didn't get the camera. I missed my memory card, but we had some back and forth passing at turn 5, other turns at Barber, man. It was awesome. And it's interesting, man. We don't know, because I mean, I'm sure he's experienced it. He's on an R6. You know, you have to either build up the R6 all the way, or you got to buy a Ducati and detune it with software, whatever it takes. It's just getting more and more money. And yeah, I agree. Let's just get it back to racing, man. Yeah. Let's make it about that. But I want to do something. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick on this point, before we change subject, if it was me and I was going to buy a bike to race in super sport, why would you not either buy the Ducati or the 750? And the reason why I say that is because, yeah, you got to buy a $10,000 fly-by-wire. Yeah, you have to adapt to your 750. But that's just the upfront cost, right?
Yeah.
But you have no motor bills to do throughout the year. R6, you're spending 10, 12, whatever it is, depending on what the tuner is going to charge you on each motor, that might last you 2 or 3 months. Yep. So at the end of the year, you don't pay twice as much as me. Yeah, I paid 30 grand up front, but that 30 grand carried me all season versus your $80,000 in your 4 freaking R6 motors. Yes. Right. So if it was me, that's what I would do. And honestly, of course, I'm a Ducati man, But I would honestly, at the end of the day, I'd buy me a Gixxer 750 because it's a proven platform. It's reliable. You don't hear of any engine blowups, any issues at all. And do the call up Ulrich, say I need the fly-by-wire, brother, hook me up, send me all that, and boom. Let's go.
Yep. Man, so it's been an amazing story so far, from everything you've shared, your health, family, occupation, everything you do, man. It's amazing to hear all this, and it really puts a perspective on who's hosting this. I want to do one last fun thing with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name a word. I'm just going to say the word, and you say one word that comes to your mind. Only one word. You can't say a whole sentence, all right? Take up to 3 seconds, but don't take too long.
Okay.
All right, whatever pops in. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Friends.
Family.
Motorcycles.
Passion.
Family.
Love.
Energy.
Dude, again, love.
Okay. Health.
Dude, everything.
BSB.
Dude, the greatest show on earth.
Moto America.
Again, the second greatest show on earth.
All right. Top Rack.
Dude, the beast.
And finally, Rossi.
The GOAT. And my son.
Love it, man. I love it. Love it, man. It's been an honor, man, hosting this, and I really appreciate you allowing me to step into your story and your life a little bit. And thank you for having a generous heart and opening up to all the people too. So before we get into your shout out for your sponsors, do you have anything else you want to say or go over before we get over to that?
Listen, the first thing I just want to say is, man, this is an absolute honor to be able to do what I do, and without all you men and women out there showing me all the love and support, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, right? So it's an absolute honor. Thank you guys and girls so much. I love each and every one of you. You guys have no idea. You know it. When you see me at the track, you feel the energy right now when I give you the hug. That's why I'm a big hugger. I'm not a big high fiver and fist pounder, man. Bring it in. Let's get that hug. Let's embrace, right? So yes, thank you to everybody. I love it. Every single one of y'all. It's an absolute honor. If you hadn't had the chance yet, go to all my channels, like, subscribe, all that cool stuff. But yeah, no, it's Rohan. You absolutely murdered it. This has been your idea, and it was an absolute awesome idea, and I enjoyed every second of it. So it's an honor for you to do this, and thank you so much for doing it.
Man, I appreciate it so much, and it's been an honor. And you are truly, there you go. Ryan said it. Let you shine. Light the shine on others. You're a shining light on the community, man. So I really appreciate it. It's been amazing.
Yeah, man, no problem, dude. Thank you. It's an honor. But yeah, but before we get off here, yeah, it's shout out to everybody that watched this live or that's gonna watch it in the future. It's you guys and girls mean everything to me. You really do. Like I said, without your love and support, and you guys feed me all your positive energy all the time, I wouldn't be able to do this. So because of you, I'm here, right? So nothing but love for all of you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Amazing.
So, yeah.